Okay, so I wanted to make a quick video about this question that I got because I'm super passionate in all things revenue operations and sales operations. So I'm just going to break down exactly what it is. I have my little whiteboard here and I'm just going to talk about it and see how this goes. So first of all, revenue operations is very common in the tech world. So I'm going to speak on it from a tech perspective because that's kind of what I have experience in. So in a tech company, there's usually two arms. There is the GTM side, which stands for go to market, and then there's the product or engineering side. So in the product and engineering side, you'll have things like product managers, engineers. They focus on things like product, coding. They develop on just the actual product and what the software usually has. On the go to market side, they focus less on what the product and the software is, but actually how to go to market and to sell and to market with this product. On the GTM side, you have things like sales, marketing. You also have things like account managers. And then within all of that, you have revenue operations. So revenue operations sits at kind of the intersection of sales and marketing and account managers or CSMs because they support each of the operational side of these teams. And revenue operations can also be broken down into further things like sales ops, marketing ops, and CSM or CS ops, depending on how big the company is. So within revenue operations, you typically have 4 pillars underneath it, which is process, people, data, and you have technology. So these buckets can go into, again, if you're specializing in sales ops, it can be like the process, the people, the data, the technology within sales, or the process, the people, the data, the technology within marketing. Revenue operations is the amalgamation of all of this, but essentially these are typically your 4 core pillars. While you support typically one bucket of the lifecycle stage, our main clients is really the business. And what I mean by that is that your ultimate goal isn't to make sales happy, but it's to grow revenue for the business, hence the word revenue operations. Your job is to be able to grow the business by bringing revenue. And you're doing that through a combination of these 4 things. Let's say the sales team, when I'm looking at the entire deal stages, I see that they're always taking so much time within the discovery stage or within this stage of the sales cycle. Okay, what's in that process that's holding up their time? Maybe it's looking for resources. Maybe it's because they're creating too many decks. Is there a template that we can create so that they don't have to spend enough time and therefore can speed up the sales cycle? That's an example. The people, that's things like performance, that's things like enablement. I work a lot with compensation strategies. So are we incentivizing the right behaviors for these people? Let's say somebody is incentivized on number of deals closed, but not revenue, then they're going to maximize the amount of deals that they close, but not necessarily care about how much each deal is because they're not compensated on that. That's a very simplified obviously example of this, but yeah, you need to be able to incentivize people to drive the right behaviors. Data is also looking at analytics. Perhaps, let's say 90% of our business is within the North American region versus the European region. Do we need to double down on the North American region and maybe allocate less of our resources to the European region because it seems like North American customers are our bread and butter? Or it could be the opposite where, a lot of product resonates with a lot of European markets, so let's double down on that and hire people within that market versus having a 50-50 split because it doesn't make sense from a revenue perspective. Technology is technology. So there's so many tools out there that people can use. What tools and what latest technology can we implement to help the sales team, the marketing teams, our CRM, all of that to essentially make our job easier? So I kind of went into detail with all of that, but I think that's kind of the gist of revenue operations. Ultimately, you are driving revenue for the business. You are thinking of all the different improvements that you can make within all those 4 pillars. And why I say that you're working for the company, not for the teams, is because sometimes you have to make hard decisions of being able to be like, well, we actually need to cut this program because it's not doing well in terms of our revenue. The company's bottom line is your ultimate goal. Sometimes that means shifting priorities is something that maybe the team doesn't align with. You're in a lot of executive meetings because you're ultimately advisors to them to figure out how to improve the company revenue. So that's revenue operations. If you have any more questions, I'm super passionate in talking about this. So let me know. I can also talk about how I got started and how I got into it and how my roles evolved kind of in the last 6 years or so. So hopefully that helps. And maybe I'll post a better version of this somewhere here or a downloadable thing that you could do. We'll see. All right. Thanks.